Consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission, to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
So, it really is an inside-out thing. And I know from reading a little bit that I've read about the work that the two of you do, and what you see about the opportunity and possibility and coming from the inside. That there is nothing that will happen that's creative that will come from outside in. It will always start from the inside. And then I say, I make the arrow go both ways, because you're going to take it out, and then you're going to come back in again, and then you're going to take it out, and then come back in again. And everyone will do it slightly differently, and that's okay. But I'll tell, I think it's terrifying to teachers that have been taught to work in schools the way we demand that they work in schools today. This stuff could be terrifying because they don't have a clue.
Yeah.
So there's another level, is starting with what do we do at the university if we're training, teachers to work, and parents, who even with what we did at the school with our high schoolers, parents want their kids in college. And so that's really what they're concerned, many of them, not everybody, but everyone, there's that controversy as well. And I think too, when we started to go back to what you asked me originally, at the very beginning, about the corporate world, I really do believe from what, I'm a Harvard Business Review reader, and I used to read Fast Company until I just finally had too much stuff to read when I was writing. There was way too much stuff. But HBR is coming through with a lot of work on the need for conversations in the workplace. The Teal organization, where they're looking at self-organization, the interaction among the workers to create, that to self-organize and create that organization. I met a young woman recently at a retreat who said, I work for a Teal organization. I had just read about it in the journal and had never heard the term before. So it's out there. And I think it would be wonderful to be able to have conversations with people that are doing that at the corporate level, and parents and others, where the system is actually interacting in and among itself, and to see what self-organizes out of that. That would be fascinating.
Yeah. Well, part of it, the parental piece has kind of, I don't know if it's eroded away or exactly what's going on, but just in terms of what you're talking about, that's a different way of thinking about education. Mm-hmm. And the parents today, generally, not Gabi excluded, because he and his wife have they've got a different way of thinking. Sure. Apart from like the norm, right? So they're much more in line with what you're saying. But most people they wouldn't know where to start with this. No. And they don't want to take on the responsibility that really is theirs.
Right.
To start at home. And you can send your kids off to this school, but whatever they're bringing back home needs to be supported by the parents.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and we have what we call in helicopter parents. I'm sure you've heard that term. Mm. And I've mentioned that to my daughter-in-law, because she sometimes can be a helicopter parent, and not necessarily in a negative way. Interestingly, she's just concerned about what's happening with Levi in school, and she doesn't hesitate to say so. But she gets a lot of pushback with that, a lot of it. I think we go back again. My belief is that we still go back again to the conversations. There are two things. The conversation is critical. Being able to talk with one another, either in a huge professional organization, whether it's in a school, the professional learning communities that Rick DeFore created in the 1990s have been bastardized so badly that all they're doing is looking through data. And I know him, and I know what his intent was, and it was never to be, never to have that kind of thing happen as a result of that. So everything has been morphed to fit that model, as has the evaluation that with checklists, for what the teachers are doing. So I think being able to step back and have conversations, the critical piece though that we found with what we did with the Make Schools Different is that something has to happen as a result of there. It has to be the action piece that happens as a result of the conversation. So if I were to work with that again, I would be more interested in follow-up to be able to say, what are you doing now? Where can you go with this? What can you do with this? Because it would take, I think, some pockets of that kind of thing happening where we could begin to develop models that people could look at. It's fear-based, I think. I really do believe that. I think parents are afraid that their kids are not going to be taken care of. They're afraid they're going to be hurt. They're afraid they're not going to do well in school. Where we have more well-educated parents than we used to have. I mean, my dad went through 8th grade. He didn't really, he didn't get involved, especially when I was in high school. He didn't know anything about that. He'd never done that. He had, however, been in the war, so he knew that type of learning. But I think our parents know enough to know that they want their kids to have the best education that they can have. But I do believe, and I believe really strongly, we're not asking the right questions. It's like we went back with what Gabi and I were talking about before. We're not asking the right questions at any level. We're not asking the right questions.
Do you feel that there are examples, maybe in other countries, where they are asking the right questions and where we could look and learn on maybe?
Well, I think everybody looks at Finland right now. That Finland's their structure. They're at least looking at their structure and how their children are performing. I mean, the U.S. schools, many of our teachers are simply saying, "Oh, here's Finland again." They don't have any hope that anything is going to come from that. So it would be interesting to go there, and spend a little bit of time there to see. And I do think I'm not without hope here. I think there are places that have pockets, like we said earlier, Gabi. There are places, where I'm trying to think of the High Tech High in California is a tech focused school that really has more of an open perspective about it. That is touted quite a bit, for what they're doing with students.
I think there's one of those in San Marcos, Gabi.
It's more widespread. It's happening. I see this. I see examples that really were very impressive. I'll tell you, my kid was spending time watching dolphins.
Right.
Through the web camera, the web camera.
Webcam.
Webcam, right? Yeah. And I was like, why are you watching this video for so long, right? And so he told me what the assignment was. They were about to start a new chapter, but before they even started that, they got an assignment that they needed to watch those dolphins, I think for 3 days, and keep a journal.
Oh, cool.
So they started through observation. They didn't start teaching them, okay, here are the dolphins, they belong to this group and of species, and that's what their attributes are, right?
Yeah.
No, you go and you observe. Yeah. And it was very interesting because he was very much involved, interested, and he almost like every time they did something interesting, he was so excited, and he would log that into his little log, And some children were given other animals to observe, and so then they all came together, and the class started with them sharing their observations with each other. I was like, oh, this is changing.
I think that's great because they couldn't have had any instruction. Here's what to look for.
Exactly.
Right. If they're looking at different animals, there's no way to do the same. Just figure it out.
Scientists, they were there in the in the environment, trying to. It's like getting empirical knowledge, right?
Well, they're really doing research. They're doing research.
The real research, right?
Yeah.
And so this is happening, and it makes me so happy. Seeing this, and there's no way. What I'm thinking is there's no way to stop this.
Is he in a public school?
Yes,
Is he in a regular public school?
In
Oh,
regular
good,
public
good, good. That's good to know then. That's good.
Absolutely. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah.
We could really expedite this if there was more investment, if there were more people who were educated in that way and
Right.
directed to our schools.
Right.
Because you're right. I mean, if we didn't prepare them in the universities to follow this innovative kind of approach in teaching, then they would just do it the way they
Yeah.
were taught. And so,
Well, this is like a political movement, right? Where nothing happens just instantly because the president doesn't decide, okay, we're changing everything.
Right.
It starts
The
grassroots, a
does
little
not-
here and a little there, and it gains a
It's-
little momentum, and next thing you know, it's everywhere.
It's in our control.
Yeah.
We could drive this. We could totally
I
drive
was
this.
just thinking we ought to keep talking about this. It's a fascinating, it's a fascinating possibility.
Well, that's what we're doing. That's
yeah.
just getting out and just having conversations like this helps. Every little bit causes a little ripple.
I wanted to mention one other thing too that I write about in the Awakening Your Creative Voice book. That book is written primarily for women, and it's written for men and women, but it's encouraging women to step up and use their voices, in their creative voices, in ways that they may not have felt comfortable doing, in the past. And when I talked with Kathy Mason, my publisher, about doing a book, I wanted to write a book about leading like an artist. That's what I suggested to her. So we talked about that, and she said she was interested. And then she said, Elsie, you should be writing for women. She said that they need someone who can help them begin to step forward. Well, I mean, that was 2 years ago, so neither of us saw, what was happening these days with the new movement that's around, a conversation that is fascinating, to say the least, with the women's movement, very different from the one that I lived through in the in the 60s and 70s. But what's important is that there is a way of looking at the world, as we talk about this, that's innately feminine. The conversations, compassion, being open to new ideas. That's on the one side of the seesaw. The other side is making it happen, setting the structure. The technique and the planned seats on the merry-go-round are the masculine side of the seesaw. The playing with and just fiddling around with things and taking risks and stepping out there is more often a feminine type of trait. All of us have those, both the men and the women. And I think if we could be more open and honest about recognizing those capacities that we have to see the world from both sides of that seesaw, or in the center where there's a balance, because obviously it's skewed.
Sure.
All of this stuff is going to the one side. It's like that. I mentioned this too. I remember playing on those big old, wonderful, heavy seesaws, and if you were up at the top, you were just hoping that your friend down at the bottom didn't jump off.
Yep. It was a long way down.
It was a long way down, and you just kind of hanging there dangling. And in a way, that's what I feel about our kids, because they're coming in with this wonderful imaginative capacity to be creative. The moment they're born, they're coming in with that, and they're looking for that, and they're looking to influence that. I really do believe that more and more each time. I think they're here to teach us in many ways how to see differently. But the feminine perspective for me is universal. Writing for the women was important because I feel that it's important for the women to have those conversations. For men, it's an opportunity for them to be able to take a look at that and to recognize that they also hold those capacities, and not to feel uncomfortable, because our culture has taught the men that, you don't have feminine qualities, and you don't look at the world this way, and you got to be a manly man, and the same thing happens. I see that happen a lot with how structures are done in my field. With how schools are organized, and with what's happening with, how kids are disciplined, and who's sent to the office, and all of that. But I think that was another intent for that book, was to be able to open that conversation. and to invite the women in to have those conversations, which implies then, Gabi, even more so inviting the mothers of the children, you know, to come together with the fathers and say, here are things that we both bring to our children that are important for, you know, for their awareness and for their development and support for them.
I just want to make a quick comment. We have a guest that we interviewed a couple of weeks back, and she wrote a book called Simply Feminine. And it was the result of her interviewing 200 or 300 men about what we think is feminine.
Interesting.
Not what women think is feminine.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she says in that interview is she's pointing out that women's femininity is their power.
Yes.
It's their strength.
I believe that, yeah. And that's basically what I say in the book.
Yeah.
And for the first time in history, we have the capacity, women have the capacity to use their creative voices in ways that we've never been able to do before. I really do believe. And I think, you know, whenever I look at what's happening with the movement that's happening right now, you know, my younger friends will say, well, are you in this, Else? Are you in there? You know, are you in there? And they're in their 30s and 40s, you know, and they're all in there. And I said, I'm really excited that you're there. I'm excited for that because I can remember what that felt like when I remember looking at a Time magazine article during the feminist movement in the 60s and 70s, and there was a woman who was pregnant in a pinstripe suit on the front of Time magazine. I remember, you know, how important that was at the time because we were trying to be like the men.
Right.
And to be equal. It's not about equality, it's about balance.
Right.
And
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
We never really learned that lesson. So I say to my younger friends, what are you going to do that's different? What will you do that's different? It's okay to do what is happening now, and I don't want to get into that conversation here, but it's okay, you know, to protest and it's okay to speak up and all of that. But what are you going to do that's different, and how are you really listening to that conversation and, you know, and what's happening? To me, it's from the I guess I see myself as the grandmother, I say in the book, you know. I'm the age enough to be able to do that, but I see it from a little more of a wisdom perspective because of what we went through.
Well, that's an important question, I think, because what comes to me is that, you know, if you're not thinking about what are you going to do differently and you topple the regime,
exactly,
what happens? You just end up doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Different faces, but it's all the same.
Tom Brokaw made that comment when this whole issue that's happening lately came up at the very beginning. He said, you know, it's one thing to have the conversation, and we need to have that conversation. But the question is ultimately what will come of it?
Mm-hmm.
What will change as a result of the conversation? And so far, I don't see anything changing. I think it's more raising awareness, you know, than anything. But
that's the beginning, though, right?
Exactly.
You have to start there.
Exactly. And I would say the same thing about awareness with, you know, with organizational structure. How we interact with one another as far as creativity. It's a similar thing. Being aware that every one of us is a creative being. Men and women, it's not just the women. Every one of us is born as a creative being, and that balance is so incredibly important because it provides different ways of thinking and being that allow us to move into the future that is beginning to evolve. And the future that's beginning to evolve for that unified field is really moving fast.
Yeah.
It's moving fast.
Yeah.
And, you know, every time we have a new moon or we have a full moon, I'm getting to the point where I can feel the energy is really strong. And it's strong everywhere. So, lots of chaos, but that's what breeds creativity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to have the chaos to have a new order.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You do.
All right. Well, Gabi?
Well, the femininity question and I remember I really was impressed. I think it was, I don't recall, it was one of the Dan Brown's books where he raised a question, actually a theory that most of the troubles of this world is because of this disturbed balance between feminine and masculine.
Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah.
And it's just, you know, what was happening. You know, remember when the witches were burned at the stake?
Yes,
You know,
yes.
So the Catholic Church was getting rid of all the free thinking,
Right.
You know, creative, feminine, you know, energy for a long time, right? And I think I would agree with you. We're just coming out of it. You know,
Yes.
we're just really coming out of it.
Yeah.
It's a long-term effect that it had on the society, and I think that's all these wars that came from it. You know, you let the man go unchecked and really create a lot of mess. You know, now how do you reclaim that balance back? It's a big question.
Yeah.
But for sure, anytime I look at all the different developments in the society, and I speak with my daughter, and she considers herself a feminist as well. She taught me, you know, quite a few profound lessons. You know, their generation, the millennials, I think, will be the one that solves that question.
I have a lot of conversations with friends. My son is only 36. You know, I was a little older when I had him, and my son and daughter-in-law are both 36, 37 they'll be this year. And then one of my very close friends who's like a daughter, just turned 34. And Stephanie and I have a lot of discussions about millennials. And I'm very interested in having conversations because with them, what I'm trying to create here locally is women's creativity conversations where we work with small groups of 6 to 12 people and have the opportunity to go through this model and, you know, to talk and write and interact with one another in ways that I just think it's a lost, you know, pretty much a lost art these days, to be able to hear what other people are saying and to learn. It's co-creating, really, is what it is. So anyway, she talks about millennials, and she refers to herself as a millennial. And she said it's about authenticity. I said, what is it what are you looking for, Stephanie? What is it that you want? And she said authenticity and trust. And I found that to be pretty profound.
Yes.
And I remember saying to her then, I said, I was writing down just before she and I had this conversation, what it was that I personally can bring, you know, to the work that I do now that I've written this book. What is it that I can bring at this point in my life? And the first word I had was authenticity. You know, this is what I've done all of my life. So
aren't those two things? Isn't that what part of what we all want?
Oh, I think so.
I mean, we all want the same things.
Yeah.
We just have, you know, for various reasons, we've had different focuses, I guess.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're not going. Yes, authenticity. Yes, you do want that, but for them, this is a very. It's a matter of principle.
Yes.
They're not taking any prisoners. You either are
That's exactly right.
authentic, or you're not going to talk with you.
That's right.
That Bernie Sanders, you know, provocation, right? I was following because she was for Bernie, and they were going there and protesting or whatever. And the kind of discussions, I'm privileged to be a friend on her Facebook. The kind of discussions I was following, I was amazed sometimes. I was reading this, and I was like, I'm watching history in the making here. And the questions that they're raising, I was amazed. Like, our generation did not even ask that question.
No.
So they are very serious, and I think we're going to see no structures will stop this movement.
No.
I don't believe so. It's just a force. You can't defeat in any way. This is a wave of transformation that's going to cover us all. They're going to come into the leadership positions. We just need for those baby boomers, those people who are programmed in the most toxic way, to go away, and then it's just it's going to happen.
I'm trying. I'm so sorry, Gov.
We have no chance. I sometimes find myself not very useful to them. I was like, I'm stuck in that thinking. I got to transform here, you know.
Yeah. I feel the same way. But I said to somebody just recently, you know, I said I'd really like to work with millennials because I think I have something to offer it through the conversation. you know, where they would have an opportunity to come together and really, you know, through their energy, begin to help things move forward a little bit more quickly. And that response I got, oh, that's a hard sell, Else.
Yeah.
I said, well, yeah, it probably is.
So now these millennials, Elsie, I think they are finding their way into schools.
Good.
And they're teaching now differently, not because of the system that's teaching them whatever. Now that's their worldview.
That's what
their
I see.
mindset.
Yeah, exactly.
This is they're already enlightened in that way. Those are the creative beings that got into schools, and now they're looking at this curriculum or the program is like, oh, I'm gonna find a way to transform this.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding with my
creatively.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to, and then when they speak to kids, they come to their eye level, to the level, and they talk with them as equal being.
Right.
I noticed that, and there's a change, a big transformation happening, right? We are not, starting not to raise factory workers. We are starting to get people who, and you know, the education is not going to be received through school soon. I don't think.
No, you know, and it's fascinating that you mentioned that, because when I was talking with this friend that I mentioned just recently, I said something about education, and her response to me was, she said, education is universal, Else. It doesn't just happen in a classroom. And of course she's right. You know, I was just still in that, you know, that structured dialogue, but she's absolutely right. Education is universal, and this young woman teaches science and dance. Those are her two. Those are her two areas, and she's, you know, now moving more into the arts because that's really what she wants to do. But her perspective about the world is absolutely fascinating. As is my son's. You know, I see that with, you know, this young man who is 36, and he's a web developer, programmer. You know, he and his wife run a petting farm, and you know, that whole expansive, really big picture world that they live in is it's a good thing that they're only 36. They have a lot more energy for it than I do, but it's still it gives me a great deal of hope. You know, when I'm around them, I have a lot more hope about what can happen, you know, in the future.
It's happening. I'll tell you, yesterday I caught my boy watching a YouTube video, and there was he often, you know, finds these. There was a snake that was swallowing another like a rodent or some. Yeah. It was horrible. I thought you can have nightmares from that. Yeah. But you know, he was watching it. It was a slow process. You know, it was a slow process getting that big rodent swallowed. You know, and the snake looked. And I'm looking at him, and he's like looking in fascination. Completely, it's like, David, I mean, you're not scared to us? No, this is incredible. And there are comments there under the YouTube video, and the kids his age are commenting, right? And the kind of things, they're so excited, right? And it occurred to me, that's how they learn, you know? Yes. And if he has homework, he would just type here and there, and he'll go to Wikipedia, he'll go this. Information is so readily available. What are the teachers? They used to be communicators of information in our age, right? They're no longer communicators. They don't have the monopoly on the information.
Well, and think about the conversation that he's having, you know, and watching happen through the YouTube with the technology is absolutely amazing. So
what is the role of the teacher then? If they're
we turned them into babysitters 20 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's very sad.
So, you know, my kid would not be very excited at school if you're just going to convey, like, information. He's just going to be very bored. He's like, what stops me from looking this up? You know, I could easily get that. And you know what? It's going to be more entertaining. It's going to be some kind of animation. And there's going to be fun music, right? So he quickly would lose interest. You need to engage them in other ways, right? And that's what they're trying to do. I mean, it's almost like the kids are driving how they have to do.
That goes back to what we said too. The teachers are listening to them. That's a wonderful, wonderful example of what should be happening, because the kids will drive it. They will. They're smart enough to be able to do that. It's just a matter of helping them frame it so that they can take it forward in ways that will really impact. They're going to impact the world. way differently
Yeah.
than we did. I think that's a given. And
That's technology, right? It's everything is so much. Everything happens so much faster now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
We all changed the world. Our generations changing the world in ways that previous generations couldn't have.
exactly.
So I think that's a natural progression.
Yeah.
You know, going back, you're right with what you're saying. Oftentimes I would sit with my brother, who's my 2 years junior of mine. We sit together, and I was like, my God, we were witnessing the internet when it was like CompuServe, and it was just
I know.
text forums and the dial-up connections,
Yeah.
and look where it's taken us.
Yeah.
And I got this wave of excitement. What's happening? I mean, this is an amazing, amazing transformation. We were privileged to know this world.
Yeah.
And to be able to see how it changed and appreciate it. From that comes the appreciation of this amazing, amazing acceleration, right? That we're witnessing, right? I think that the only thing that we need to ensure is that it takes into the path of positive transformation for the world, because there are discussions about the internet being the internet not being free and controlled and all these things. So basically all these freedoms, there's always some momentum from the governments, from the controlling structures, right, to suppress that movement. And that's what, but I don't think they really can, not anymore, not with the internet.
So?
I mean, the genie is out of the bottle. I mean, they really can't do it.
I think, I don't know where I'm at on that, but I think if they did, something else would come up. Somebody would come up with another way. And so, I mean, human beings are the most creative animals on the planet.
Yeah.
And we always, always, always come up with another way around it.
Yeah.
There's nothing that anybody implements.
They're very tricky. You see, the whole phenomenon with fake news, right? Wasn't that incredible to watch this? Okay, so we are going to not suppress information. We are going to take this information and present it in ways that serves us, And so we are, and for the masses to come to the realization, you see, they couldn't last for too long, right?
No.
The realization was like, oh my God, I can't trust these guys. And so the alternative media, started coming out, and there were like facts, for those people who were curious, they found those facts. Others are ignorant, but you know what? Ignorant people don't make much difference anyways. I mean, but for those who care, I mean, they're just, people who are not activists, they're just keeping to their routine. Okay, so they're convinced, for example, that the election was stolen, right? What does it make a difference, what they believe, right? But for those who do care for the truth, they're finding it. And there's always a way to find, to get to the truth. And you're right, there's no way. I don't think they could, it will come out one way or the other.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's
how did
that's your political statement allotment for the episode.
I tend to step out and just look at it and watch it in amusement. It makes me feel better, because I think that, and we are fans of Abraham, and she has this amazing card. We usually get together and we go through these cards with different statements. Something to think about. And she said on one of the cards, oh gosh, I saved it on my phone. It said that there was no way that any force of any external force could stop this drive towards love and transformation. It's just, there's no way you could stop the masses.
No, I don't think so.
And it's happening in this millennium, right? So there's no way. And it makes me so positive, and I'm seeing this around, right? I see the contrast. I see what's happening, the conflicts and the chaos in the world. But I recently watched Sir Richard Branson interviewed, and he said, I'm just not watching the news, I'm not reading the newspapers, because he says you're not seeing how much positive transformation is happening in the world. The press is not covering it, the mass media is not covering this. We are living in the most exciting times. We just need to, join the forces and become, the activists in this. Transformative action. And I think that Tim and I and you, Elsie, I think that's why we are doing this here.
Definitely. I say in one of my favorite sayings is that we are the butterflies who speak. We go around, sort of touching, and if a butterfly, moves its wings in Africa, does it affect what happens over? We are the butterflies who speak.
Oh, I know this. This is an interesting example. Yeah, that the butterfly flipping its wings will have an effect. Even That's that universal energy perspective. That's a good thought, though, Gabi. Thank you for that. It's very hopeful.
It ain't over till it's over.
That's true. That's right.
I just hope we live long enough to see some more of this amazing transformation, like the internet was, right?
Yeah.
Something else, we have seen amazing stuff already, So, and the pace of technology just keeps accelerating. We're going to see stuff we can't imagine. 10 years from now, we're going to, there's going to be something that is everyday commonplace that we're just going to take for granted, like the internet. But today we can't even come up with it,
when I was in high school, I learned to type on the typewriter and have electronic typewriters, all of that. So, remembering when computers even came in, were there, it was a monumental step. And yet I watched my son learn to draw with a mouse, sitting on his dad's knee with a Mac computer, And I just thought that was just amazing. And, look what he's doing with it.
The thought that comes to me while you're saying that, stuff like that goes on, and then the older folks, we look at that and go, well, they're missing out on all of this stuff that we got to experience. They're missing out on this. A lot of it's sort of tangible stuff, But the reality is in order to have something new, that something's going to have to get given up.
Yeah. I just want them still to be willing to take walks in the woods and to to sit under a tree and to be silent and listen to themselves. What is it that you really think? What is it that you really feel? Because I think those are universal.
But that's the stuff that's what we're all trying to do, is to promote that kind of stuff.
That's exactly.
We need it too. But
that's true.
We're in a place where we can see how important it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Yep.
That's an interesting question, because my boy is playing Roblox a lot, and this is a virtual reality, and he gets to build things there. He could manifest things into that world by scripting. He just types, I want a sword, or I want like a cup of milk, and it will appear there on the screen, and he could do stuff with it, right? So it's very exciting. And I'm telling him, and it's like a very pixelated world, Roblox, you could see it. I was like, listen, I'm just asking him, I was like, what? The world around you is that world, the virtual reality, right? And I know you use that avatar, but aren't you an avatar? And why won't you just go into the HD world through your HD vision and just kind of play in the real world, where you could actually touch? And there are all the senses, like smell and amazing, high fidelity sound, and the birds and the creatures in the world. It's like, how come you're not thinking of this as a very, like a game, right? Oh, but Bob, this is so boring, but I can't explain it to you, you have to, I started watching him play, and you know what? He's interacting maybe with headphones. He's interacting with maybe 10 or 20 people, kids like him.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
they're discussing now. So what are they doing is they're looking for allies, and once they form a team, they go and conquer something. You know, and so they don't know each other, but they type and they say, like, who are you? I'm this. You know, do you want to go with me and conquer this dragon or whatever? I was like, yeah, I would. You know, okay, join me. I'm Captain this. You know, whatever. Let's go. And so now there's 5 of them. I was like, how are you doing? I have like 15 more people to get into my team before I could go and conquer this thing. So it's not just it's collaboration that's going on there. You see, they're learning collaboration.
Yep.
You know, not competition. You know, collaboration in achieving their goals. And the games that are created there, they're also created by millennials. You see, and so. They are, in many ways, they're promoting all these interesting qualities and the way of looking at the world. You just need to be a little bit more selective, right? Because I know that there are some games that are just robotic shooting at something and whatever. That's where we could control this a little bit and just direct them into the right path, right? But I did institute like what I call a computer holiday. You see. So I do it. I started from the evening before, so there is no like enticement. I take the computer and I just take it away from the room and put it in the garage. And so there's this desk that's completely empty, and I wipe it clean. So it's like completely clean, and it's very dramatic to look at this desk where the computer used to sit on, and now it's just empty. But it leaves no possibility and chance that the computer could come back here. And we planned, like, we started a channel called Essential Life Skills. But Tim knows because I think I already started sharing that. Right? And we started getting like things like how to make crepes from start to finish. And I just couldn't get him interested in that, right? So I'm thinking, how do I get him interested in that? And I thought, you know what? He is good at video editing and YouTubing. And I said, why won't we record videos for your kids, teaching them how to make crepes, and you get to video edit this, and I'm gonna buy you software to do it. It's Wondershare Filmora. Great software. So my God, he got so interested in this. He recorded 4 videos now, how to drill, how to write a handwritten letter. They don't know how to do this. I mean, they don't know how to address an envelope. You know, I mean, so they got nothing. And now we're gonna move on to some, you know, maybe building a chair or something that we could later paint. So it's gonna go on and on like that. So that's our influence. We need to kind of balance them. Bring them into the real world. I think that's going to be very useful for parents also to take away, you know.
And giving them opportunities to interact personally as well. That would be my next question: is that how comfortable is he when he's interacting, you know, on a one-to-one basis? Because he's very comfortable with the computer.
Very comfortable. And we would go to. They have no, you know, there is nothing that prevents them from making first contact. I see. They go right in, and he starts talking, and he asks a lot of questions until he gets to the bottom of it.
Okay.
And there's nothing that he wouldn't feel uncomfortable. It's just such a natural thing for him to do, right? And I see other kids responding in the same way. And you know why? Because we didn't program him. Oh, don't talk with strangers.
Right.
Things like that, right? He is taking all the kids around him is like, okay, I love you. You know, he goes to any parent, he's saying, hi, I'm David. What's your name? What's your name? This is your name. The next question, you know what's coming? Do you have any kids my age? You know, because he wants to establish contact and play with them immediately. You know? So,
good for him. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. That,
all right. I think we're up against time here, Gabby.
Oh no.
So, yeah.
I'm just getting started.
I know.
You know, that's
We actually have
exactly
another
what's
hour and a half,
happening.
but you don't
That's
have,
exactly
we
what's
can't fit it in.
happening.
Oh,
Because for the first half an hour or 40 minutes, I usually I'm listening actively, because it's always fun to meet a new person with a new perspective, especially someone who's been devoting so much time to this
Thank you.
subject. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure for me as well. You must know, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Thank you
Good.
both. Thank
Good.
you both.
Thank you for coming.
I appreciate
Enjoyed
it.
it. So before we go, give people particulars on how to reach you and what's, website address and
Yeah, the website
all
is
that.
elsieritzenhein.com, or Elsie at elsieritzenhein.com.
You want to spell that for them?
It's spelled ELSIERIT, Z as in zebra, EN as in Nancy, HEIN as in Nancy.
Okay.
.com. And they'll find some information on the website, a couple videos so they can get to know me a little bit better, and some tools that they can download. The model that I mentioned is on the site if they're interested in that. And the books are both there for connection. And the book, by the way, The Awakening Your Creative Voice, is now an Amazon best-selling book.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Absolutely.
It's been a bestseller.
Very exciting.
So that's very exciting. So they can find what they need there, and Rob and I will be adding a few more videos coming up within the next several months, and some interactive kinds of things that they can do there. But if they want to contact me, they're welcome to email. I would love to connect with anyone who's interested.
Terrific. And we'll put all that on the show notes also for you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So, okay. Terrific.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you again.
Thank you.
And maybe we'll see you around for round 2.
I hope so. I'd look forward to that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
It was
Thanks,
fun. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around.